The Jensen family is my father's business rival, and I've been secretly in love with Victor Jensen, the young master of the Jensen family, for 3 whole years without my parents knowing. On the day I decided to confess to both our parents, Victor Jensen insisted on attending a class reunion. I thought of giving him a surprise, so I quietly followed him. When I walked into the private room, my friends were talking about the sweet moments between Victor and me. However, a female classmate next to Victor ran out with red eyes. Victor angrily scolded me on the spot. Don't think you can insult people just because you have some money. If you don't want to talk, then get lost. After saying that, he pushed me away forcefully and hurriedly chased after her. As a result, my head hit the glass coffee table, and I was in a coma for a whole 7 days. When I woke up, I took the initiative to call my father. Dad, I agreed to the marriage alliance with the Sullivan family. Sarah, have you finally agreed to the arranged marriage? That's great. Before my dad finished speaking, my mom snatched the phone. Sweetie, why did you suddenly agree? You said you didn't want to get married so soon. That being single was more free and happy, right? My dad also said, yes, if it's forced, then forget it. Our family doesn't rely solely on the Sullivan family's investment to get by. He comforted me. Don't worry, sweetheart. Dad would never sell his daughter for money. I endured the headache and said, Mom and Dad, I'm fine. It's nothing. Facing my parents' concern, tears involuntarily streamed down. In order to be with Victor, I never dared to confess to them, and now I ended up in such a situation. I'm grateful that I've finally seen through all of this, and I'm thankful for such loving parents. My mom finally sighed in relief. It's good that everything's fine. Just as we were talking, a nurse pushed the door open and urged me to go for my checkup. I covered the microphone, worried that my parents would hear, and quickly said goodbye before hanging up the phone. Just after hanging up, I was about to get up when Victor pushed the door open and walked in quickly. Sarah, are you okay? Why didn't you tell me you were hospitalized? His face was filled with anxiety as he walked over to support me. I looked at him in disbelief. Did you forget that it was you who pushed me? He seemed to suddenly realize. No, Sarah, I truly didn't notice at the time, and I didn't know you were hurt. No one told me. He held me tightly. How are you feeling now? Does it still hurt? At this moment, the nurse came to urge us. Hurry up. It's your turn for the checkup. She glanced at Victor beside me, frowning slightly. Are you her boyfriend? She has been lying here for 7 days. Why did it take you so long to come? Quickly take her for the checkup. Victor, who has been spoiled since childhood, has always had a bad temper, especially towards outsiders. He would never let such accusations go easily. But this time, he just nodded at the nurse and said apologetically, Got it. We'll go right away. I looked up at him and noticed he was still wearing the same clothes from our first meeting. It's been 7 days, and he hasn't even gone home to change. I vaguely smelled another woman's perfume on him, and my heart sank. He would rather endure. He doesn't want me to notice anything. I want to push him away, but he holds me even tighter. Let's go, Sarah. We need to get checked. I'm a bit resistant, and he simply bends down to princess carry me. Sarah, with me around, how could I let you get sick and walk? I look at the smile on his face, which is just like before, yet I feel increasingly estranged. Victor carries me all the way to the examination room, and at the corner, I unexpectedly see Lucy Lynn, the poor female student. Victor's arms around me suddenly stiffen. Lucy sees us. Her face instantly turns pale, but she quickly turns away, pretending not to see. Victor tries to keep pulling me forward. Victor wants to keep pulling me forward, but unexpectedly, there was a commotion coming from Lucy's side. What are you guys doing? Don't touch me, Lucy called out softly. A man across from her responded disdainfully. Who touched you? You came over on your own. Look at yourself. You have no figure. So skinny you look like a little chick. Who would want to touch you? After saying that, he pushed Lucy hard. Lucy fell to the ground. Victor gritted his teeth, unable to endure any longer. Let go of me, and rushed over to punch the man hard in the face. I stood there, watching Victor fight recklessly with the other man, my heart aching as if I was hit by every punch he threw. He disregarded his image, bruised and battered, forcing the man to apologize to Lucy, completely losing that noble young master demeanor demeanor he had before. I lowered my head, trying to suppress my discomfort, and decided to check it out. The doctor said I had a head injury. There's some bruising, and a follow-up examination is needed. As I turned around, my head started to feel dizzy. I felt like I couldn't hold on, and eventually fell down. In the moment I lost consciousness, I finally saw Victor's gaze. He shouted at me in panic, "Sarah!" When I woke up again, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. Victor looked very nervous. "Sarah, you finally woke up." He held my hand tightly and comforted me. "Don't be afraid. I'm here with you. I will always be with you." However, just after he said that, his phone rang. A weak woman's voice came from the other end. "Brother Sheng, when are you coming over? My leg hurts so much." Victor immediately let go of my hand and hung up without saying a word. He stood up and asked me, "Are you hungry? I'll go get you something to eat. I'll be right back." After saying that, he quickly closed the door and left. I waited for a long time, but in the end, he still didn't come back. A few days later, the doctor told me I could be discharged. That's when Victor remembered me and called me. "Sarah, you pack your things first. I have something urgent outside. I'll come pick you up once I'm done." His voice came through the receiver. "Her leg is almost healed, and we can process the discharge today." Victor didn't give me any chance to speak and just hung up the phone. It turned out he was there to pick up another woman from the hospital. After packing my things, I handled the discharge procedures alone. After so many days in the hospital, I was eager to finish my thesis, so I returned to school the next day. As I passed by the school's display window, I heard a familiar name and couldn't help but slow down my pace. "Look, isn't that Lucy? Has she won another award?" No one paid attention to her before, but why are there so many good news about her lately? A voice said. "You don't know, right? Even though she's a poor student, she's really lucky." Another voice continued. "I heard that the young master of the Jensen family spent a lot of money to open a dance training center just for her, specifically for practicing dance. Is that true? Does this mean Lucy is going to become the young mistress of the Jensen family? It's really enviable." I turned away holding my notebook, my clenched fists digging deeply into my palms. After meeting with my mentor, I revised my thesis again and finally left the school. I didn't expect to see Victor's car at the school gate. He saw me and immediately opened the passenger door, letting Lucy get out. He casually explained, "I'm here to pick you up." I ran into her on the way, so I gave her a ride. After Lucy saw me, she lowered her head and said nothing, voluntarily stepped aside and turned to leave. Victor asked me to sit in the passenger seat. He returned to the driver's seat, saying, "Sarah, what do you want to eat tonight? It's been a while since we had a meal together. How about going to that Vietnamese restaurant you mentioned last time?" As soon as I sat down, I felt something poking my waist, and when I took it out, it was a mobile phone. The phone screen was on, showing a chat history. The profile picture on the opposite side was familiar to me. It was Victor's. The last conversation went like this: "Forget it. She's the one you love the most in your heart. Anyway, you will never marry me." Victor replied, "Don't be sad. You know, the person I love most right now is you." My hand holding the phone started to tremble uncontrollably. At that moment, the window next to me was knocked on. It was Lucy. Victor quickly rolled down the window. She smiled at me apologetically. "I'm sorry. I just left my phone at your place." After saying that, she frowned, gritted her teeth and said, "Sarah, how can you casually go through someone else's messages?" Victor suddenly snatched the phone from my hand. "Sarah Wilson, how can you be so rude, messing with other people's things? Are you used to acting like a spoiled princess? Quick, apologize to Lucy." I turned to Victor. "Me apologize?" he said with conviction. "Otherwise, what?" I let out a cold laugh, pushed the door open and got out of the car, not wanting to entangle with them any further. He followed me out of the car, grabbing my hand. "Where are you going? Did I say something wrong? Usually, I tolerate your spoiled attitude, but it's too much when you bully others at will." "Sarah, stop right there. Too much? I also think being with him is really boring." I forcefully shook off his hand. "Don't touch me." My anger flared up suddenly. "Victor, don't you think she deliberately left her phone in the car for me to see?" Victor was stunned. At that moment, it suddenly started to rain. Victor quickly came back to his senses. Sarah, don't casually accuse others. There's no way Lucy would do something like that. He pulled me back into the car forcefully. It's raining. You just got discharged from the hospital. Don't catch a cold again. As he spoke, he frequently glanced at the rearview mirror. In the rearview mirror, Lucy stood alone under the tree by the roadside. The rain grew heavier, and the thunder gradually intensified. Victor had already started the car, but the sudden thunder startled him, and he rushed out of the car without hesitation. He quickly ran to Lucy's side, took off his coat and draped it over her shoulders, and held her tightly in his arms, walking towards the school together. I remember that coat. It was a limited edition I specially chose for Victor when I went abroad. He once said it was his favorite piece of clothing. Now, I was left on the street by him, with car horns blaring behind me. I turned back to the driver's seat, started the car and drove away. When I got home, I hadn't even had time to shower and change when my phone rang. It's the call for the hotel reservation made earlier. Originally, Victor and I planned to invite both sets of parents for a meal, to communicate openly and ease the relationship between the two families. But now, all of this seems unnecessary. No need for that. Let's cancel the private room. It's not necessary anymore. I thought to myself, I'll never need these arrangements again. All the preparations for surprises have become useless. After hanging up the phone, I took a shower and then fell straight to sleep. As expected, I started running a fever at night, which persisted and didn't go down, and it still hadn't fully recovered by graduation day. During this time, Victor hadn't contacted me at all. The preparations for the graduation ceremony were quite grand, and the school arranged many programs. Lucy was also among the students performing on stage. She wore a long dress, dancing gracefully, like a fairy. It earned rounds of applause from the audience. Just at the peak of the dance, Lucy suddenly fell off the stage, clutching her leg in pain and unable to stand up. Amidst a gasp of shock, I saw a familiar figure rush onto the stage, lifting her up and quickly taking her backstage. Wasn't that the young master of the Jensen family holding Lucy? People around me began to discuss. That's right, that person is Victor. His concern for Lucy made all the audience envious, and I surprisingly became accustomed to it. After the incident, the graduation ceremony ended hastily. I followed the crowd wanting to leave, and just as I reached the door, I suddenly heard Victor's voice. Sarah, stop right there. I turned around, and the people around me also stopped in their tracks, all looking at me. Victor stormed up to me, pulling me back. Come with me, and see the trouble you've caused. I'm completely confused. Shaking off his hand, what did I do? He grabbed me again. Go apologize to Lucy. She got caught in the rain because of you that day, and she still has a high fever now. Why did you force her to participate in this graduation performance? Do you think your graduation is that important? Do you think everyone should treat you like a princess? Sarah, you are so heartless. I forced her to perform. Lucy limped out, caught Victor and started to explain. Victor, it's a good thing for Sarah to graduate. I just want to wish her well. Sarah didn't know I've been running a fever. That's why they let me perform on stage. After hearing this, Victor looked at me with even more anger. Sarah, if something happens to Lucy's leg, I will never let you go. I let out a cold laugh. Oh really? So how do you plan to deal with me? It's really you. Victor grabbed my arm tightly. Hurry up and apologize to Lucy. He kept pulling at me. Lucy took the opportunity to grab his other arm, pretending to explain for me. I just wanted to push him away and leave immediately. However, in the midst of the pulling, Victor was furious and suddenly threw me out. I crashed into the edge of the stage, my back hitting the ground heavily. It suddenly became quiet around me. I was in so much pain that I couldn't move. After a while, Victor seemed to realize he needed to come over and pull me up. Sarah, he called out to me. I desperately pushed his hand away. Fortunately, my roommates noticed I hadn't followed and came back to help me up, take me away. However, Lucy suddenly started crying. She leaned against Victor, her voice trembling. Victor, my leg hurts so much. Will it break? Then how can I dance in the future? Her cries grew louder. Victor looked heartbroken. As he passed by me, he said to me, Sarah, you know pain now? When you forced Lucy on stage before, did you think others would hurt too? Let you experience some hardship to learn a Now listen, I was in so much pain that I couldn't say a word. The pain in my back and the sharp pain in my chest intertwined, making it almost impossible for me to breathe. My roommates took me to the hospital. Fortunately, the exam results showed no fractures, and there was no major issue. I rested for a few days, and finally started to improve. During this time, Mom called me, mentioning that the Sullivan family wants to meet with me, and asked when I would be available. Mom, I'll pack my bags and come back. I said, all right. Should I arrange for a driver to pick you up? Mom asked. No need, Mom. I hung up the phone, and I was already downstairs, starting to organize my luggage. There were quite a few things related to Victor in the room. The walls were covered with our photos, along with travel souvenirs, and clothes and shoes we picked out together. I packed everything I needed into my suitcase, and threw everything I didn't need into a garbage bag. 2 big bags were filled. Almost all of them were memories of Victor. As I threw things away, the memories were sealed away as well. After that, I left with my suitcase. When I got home, Mom had already prepared a table full of my favorite dishes. I am willing to accept the arranged marriage. Dad seems to feel indebted to me, and is even more indulgent towards me. Not long after, Dad arranged for me to meet the Sullivan family. Before I even entered the private room, my phone suddenly rang with a call from Victor. I didn't answer, and his messages kept popping up. Sarah, answer the phone. Sarah, why is everything at home gone? Sarah, where have you been? Sarah, I replied, Victor, we're done. Just after sending that, his calls came flooding in again. I still didn't answer, and simply blocked Victor's number. He seemed very anxious, and even called again from an unknown number. I accidentally answered. He asked urgently, what do you mean it's over? Sarah, what do you mean by it's over? Didn't we agree to meet with your parents today? I'm already here. Why aren't you here yet? The hotel staff also told me you canceled the private room. Why did you cancel it? At this moment, my mom is urging me, Sarah, it's time to go in. Don't keep the Sullivan family waiting. That wouldn't be good. I didn't want to hear Victor go on any longer, so I hung up the phone. I'm ready. Mom and Dad, let's go in. The Sullivan family is all here. Only William Sullivan hasn't shown up yet. This matchmaking gathering, his tardiness makes me a bit dissatisfied. However, the Sullivan family's financial power far exceeds ours. Facing them, I not only have no say, but my parents also seem powerless. This is also one of the reasons I was initially reluctant to marry into this family. I am marrying up. Although I could contribute to the Wilson family's career, I know deep down that I wouldn't be happy because of it. Moreover, there was still Victor at that time, and I was even less willing. Now, the situation is very different. My dad proactively toasted to the Sullivan family's uncle, and after that, he asked me to toast as well, but I happened to be on my period, and I really didn't want to drink. My hesitation upset the Sullivan family's aunt. She put down her glass, glared at me, and said, Sarah, right? As an elder, I've held my glass up for almost 3 minutes. My arm is getting sore. Why aren't you giving me any face? Are you trying to show me who's boss right after you walk in? My parents' expressions changed instantly after hearing this. Her expression changed instantly. I felt a surge of impulse, wanting to stand up and refute. My mom gently placed her hand on my leg, signaling me to stay calm. Before coming here, she specifically warned me that William's mother is hard to deal with, and I must be very careful to avoid making any mistakes. But I had already tried my best to be careful, yet I still couldn't satisfy William's mom, and I felt powerless. I gritted my teeth. Just as my dad was about to raise a toast to lighten the mood, the door to the private room suddenly opened. Sorry, I'm late. It's William. He was wearing a fitted black suit, standing at the door, tall and slender, with broad shoulders, and a handsome face, truly a rare kind of good looks. After surveying the room, he strode in. His powerful presence made me hold my breath. A few years older than me, he was already an important figure in the Sullivan family. Within the Sullivan family, his words carry a lot of weight. Among the younger generation, he is definitely the most outstanding one. Unfortunately, he is usually silent and withdrawn, cold and arrogant, and people of our generation are all somewhat afraid of him. I thought he would say something critical to me, but unexpectedly, he took the initiative to raise his glass, to toast my parents. face. He said, "Uncle, Aunt, I'm sorry for being late today due to a sudden matter, and I apologize again." After saying that, he downed his drink in one go. After putting down his cup, he turned to my parents. "Since I promised to marry Sarah, she is my wife. I will respect and care for her, and I hope you will also respect her and her parents." His words softened William's parents' attitude considerably. I stood there in shock, my heart churning. Am I really going to become William's wife? This identity change came too quickly, and I'm having a hard time adjusting. Halfway through the meal, I made an excuse to go to the bathroom, wanting to calm down. In the bathroom, I tried to steady my emotions, and delayed for quite a while before opening the door. To my surprise, when I opened the door, I bumped right into William. His chest was solid, and the impact made my forehead ache slightly. He took a step back, keeping some distance from me. "You've been in there for a long time, so I came to check on you." I instinctively raised my hand to rub my head. "It's nothing, William. I'm fine." When he heard me call him that, his expression seemed to change slightly, but I couldn't tell his true feelings. I had seen him when I was a child. My mom made me call him William. I still remember that scene clearly. He nodded. "It's good that you're fine. Let's go." I was just about to catch up, but I slipped on a water stain underfoot and nearly fell. William reacted quickly, turning around and grabbing my waist. My heart was still racing when a familiar voice suddenly came from my ear. "Sarah, what are you doing?" I turned around and saw it was Victor. Victor stormed over and directly pulled me out of William's arms. "William, what are you doing? Everyone is in the same circle, so we all know each other to some extent." Although Victor's voice was loud, when he saw William's expression, his tone immediately softened. "You don't touch Sarah." William glanced at Victor, holding on to my arm. "Why can't I touch her?" Victor wanted to say something more, but I pushed him away. "Let go of me." He looked a bit awkward. "Sarah, what's wrong with you? Why are you with William? Let's go. We're going back." After saying that, he reached out to pull me. I quickly withdrew my hand and stepped back quickly. William raised his hand to block Victor's attempt to approach. Victor frowned. "William, who are you? You have no right to interfere in my relationship with Sarah." William stood in front of me, firmly stating, "My fiancé's matters are naturally my responsibility." Victor was taken aback. "What fiancé?" William did not continue to explain, turned around and wrapped his arm around me, preparing to take me away. "Let's go. My parents are still waiting for us." But Victor blocked our way. "Sarah, you need to clarify things. What fiancé? What does it really mean?" I stopped in my tracks, looking at him for an answer. "It's the literal meaning." Victor clearly didn't believe it. "What a joke. You guys, are you William?" "Sarah, think carefully. You and William are not on the same level at all. You two can never be together. If you want to cling to the Sullivan family, you need to consider your own status. Are you worthy of the Sullivan family?" As soon as Victor finished speaking, William coldly reminded him, "Her status and worthiness are not for you to judge." William's expression darkened, as if he was about to explode. Victor immediately shut his mouth. I also dared not speak anymore, and could only obediently follow him out. After we met, William would occasionally text me, but he himself doesn't talk much, so our communication wasn't very frequent. Coincidentally, my mom learned that William's birthday was coming up, and asked me to take this opportunity to get closer to him. Out of helplessness, I had no choice but to go. However, William was extremely busy, and I waited for him in his office with the cake for a whole afternoon. Before I could say much, he had to go to a meeting again. I was so bored that I fell asleep without realizing it. Suddenly, I felt my body moving, and I woke up abruptly, only to find myself in William's arms. I panicked, and he also seemed a bit flustered, hastily putting me down. "I saw you were asleep. The sofa isn't very comfortable, so I wanted to move you to the bed." I quickly nodded, and hurriedly said, "Happy birthday, William." "William, I put the cake on your desk. Remember to eat it." "Me, I'm leaving first." After saying that, I quickly walked away. away. Once I ran outside, I took a deep breath. My heart was racing. To be honest, even though I kept saying yes, I actually had no idea how to interact with William. I felt very uneasy. On the way, William sent a message. Let me know when you get home. When I got home, I was about to tell him, but my mom opened the door, looking a bit unwell. The kid from the Jensen family is here to see you. Victor actually came to my house. Sarah, you finally came back. Victor stepped forward to greet me. I was stunned as soon as I walked in, seeing the room filled with gifts and presents. I looked at my mom, and she whispered, "These are all brought by Victor. I have no idea what this kid is up to. Wait for your dad to come back. He will definitely be unhappy to see him." Victor heard this, and quickly tried to explain seriously to my mom. "Auntie, I know my dad and uncle have always been in competition in business, but that won't affect my relationship with Sarah. The reason I came this time is to actively reconcile with my uncle. You see, these gifts are for you and my uncle." I immediately interrupted Victor. "Victor, what exactly do you want to do?" Victor grabbed my hand and said, "Sarah, have you forgotten that you're my girlfriend? I'm doing all this based on our previous agreement." My mom looked at me in surprise. "Girlfriend?" I hurriedly shook my head and explained, "No, Mom, listen to me. I have already broken up with him." My mom was even more shocked. "What? Break up? Sarah, did you really date him?" I'm momentarily at a loss for words. Victor nodded and said, "Yes, Aunt. Sarah and I are in true love. We've decided to get married." I hurriedly interrupted him. "Victor, shut up. Stop talking." My mom covered her chest in anger. "Sarah, how could you do this? What on earth happened? Your dad would definitely be angry if he knew. And also, how do we explain this to the Sullivan family?" I quickly comforted her. "Mom, don't worry. Really, Victor and I are no longer together. I will go and explain to the Sullivan family. Victor wants to help." I turned around and shouted at him, "Don't come over here. Get away." My mom's blood pressure is high. I can't get too agitated, and holding my chest, I felt increasingly uncomfortable. I quickly took out my phone and called for an ambulance. Fortunately, it was just a false alarm. My mom was not seriously hurt. When my dad arrived, he was so angry he didn't know what to say. "What exactly happened? What is your relationship with that kid from the Jensen family?" I lowered my head. "There's nothing between us. We broke up a long time ago." I continued, "Dad, don't be angry. I was in the wrong before. I admit my mistake." My dad felt sorry for me and sighed deeply. "Sarah, you've grown up. You need to be sensible. Don't make your parents worry. Understand?" I finally couldn't hold back, and tears streamed down my face. I nodded vigorously. During my mom's hospital stay, Victor has come by a few times, but I've always sent him away. His persistence is becoming increasingly annoying. "Victor, can you please stop looking for me? I've already said, we're done. It's over. Do you understand?" I'm being straightforward, but Victor just smiled and said, "I know, Sarah, you're just angry with me. We've been together for 3 years. How can you say it's over just like that? I don't believe it." "Sarah, are you thinking this way because of Lucy? I assure you, I will keep my distance from her in the future. I just felt sorry for her, being a poor student. You know, if it were you, you would definitely feel sympathy too, right? I really have nothing to do with her. Can you believe me?" I leaned against the wall in the hospital corridor, feeling a wave of exhaustion. Not only is my heart weary, but I am also restless and anxious. "Victor, do you know you resemble a persistent plaster?" I said coldly. Victor's expression immediately turned sour. I turned my head to look at him. "Can you just leave me alone?" After I humiliated him like that, Victor finally quieted down. He did not come to find me for a long time. Meanwhile, the marriage between me and William gradually started to move forward. I know my dad wants me to marry William for the family business, but I never understood why the Sullivan family would choose me as their marriage partner. Compared to other families, our Wilson family is just too ordinary. As the wedding date approaches, my anxiety grows stronger. William seems to have noticed, and occasionally takes time to have a meal with me. He is very busy. I know. I'm already very satisfied to have such companionship. The day before the wedding, I felt a constant unease in my heart, until Victor Victor appeared at the wedding venue. My panic reached its peak. On the big screen, Victor was playing our sweet photos from our trip. He held the microphone, looking directly at me and saying, "Sarah, I love you. Can you give me another chance to start over? Sarah, you don't love him at all. Don't marry him. Sarah, have you forgotten? You once said that your true love is me, right?" I tightly held the bouquet in my hands, standing on the stage, facing the surprised and gossiping gazes of everyone, as if I had instantly lost my hearing. Our families, including my parents and the Sullivan family, were all facing immense embarrassment. I didn't know how to cope for a moment. Just as I was in a panic, my hand was suddenly grasped by someone. It was William. His hand was warm and strong, securely enveloping mine. "Everyone, today is my wedding with Miss Sarah. Please ask those who are unrelated to leave." Victor was unwilling to leave and was eventually escorted out by 4 security guards. It finally quieted down a bit. William glanced back at the screen showing a photo of me and Victor watching the sunrise together, the corners of his mouth slightly curling up, but he quickly turned to face all the family and friends and said, "Sorry for the disturbance. Let's continue the wedding." While speaking, he kept holding my hand tightly until the wedding was over. William's mother finally couldn't help but come backstage to find me. "Sarah!" She came in aggressively, and I understood in my heart. She must be here to question me. However, before she could say anything, she was interrupted by William, who happened to pass by. "Mom, this is between Sarah and me. Please don't interfere too much." With just one sentence from William, William's mom turned and left. Only William and I were left in the room. I know today's incident is serious, and it's all my fault, but William didn't scold me, which made me even more uneasy. "William, I'm sorry. I didn't know Victor would go this crazy." William walked over to me and sat down across from me. I thought he was still angry, so I continued to explain, "Victor and I have already broken up. I didn't do anything behind your back with him. I also don't know why he acted this way today." He nodded, interrupting me. "Don't be nervous. I'll handle it well." He took my hand, gently touching the wedding ring on my finger. "Sarah, don't be afraid. From now on, you just need to focus on being a wife." After hearing his words, I couldn't help but feel a wave of guilt. After Victor caused a scene at the wedding, his father finally found out. Upon learning the situation, he was locked in the house by his father for 3 whole months. During this time, I finally got some peace and quiet, patiently working on exhibits with my mentor. In these 3 months, William and I spent every day together, and our relationship grew closer, especially after he understood William's mother's temper. He specifically moved out of the ancestral home to live with me alone. I started to get busy with my own work, and life gradually fell into place. If it weren't for running into Lucy at the banquet, I would have almost forgotten about Victor. She took the initiative to walk over to talk to me and apologized to me. "Sarah, it was indeed my fault before. I shouldn't have interfered in your relationship with Victor. This drink is for you. Consider it my apology to you. Is that okay?" I did not respond to her. She continued, "After you left, Victor has been thinking about you. He can't let go of you." I interrupted her. "Can you shut up? Lucy, we're not familiar with each other, and I don't want to waste time with you." After saying that, I was about to turn and leave when unexpectedly she suddenly screamed and rolled down the stairs. At that time, we were standing on the 2nd floor of the banquet hall, and with that roll, she drew the attention of everyone present. She lay on the ground, unable to move, tears streaming down her face. "She keeps accusing me with her words. Sarah, I know you misunderstood me, but why did you push me? How could you be so heartless? I have never offended you." She cried while calling my name. Everyone's gaze was focused on me, and whispers began to rise. "This must be the young mistress of the Sullivan family, right? The incident from the last wedding is still being talked about, and now she's starting a fight again? I really don't understand how the Sullivan family chose her. How could someone like her be worthy of William? This girl is really pitiful. How could she offend a shameless woman like Sarah?" Amidst the murmurs of the crowd, Victor squeezed through the crowd and came over. He first looked at Lucy, then turned to me. "Sarah, don't be angry. Don't be angry. I already cut off contact with Lucy a long time ago. It's only fair that you pushed her today. Don't be angry with me anymore, okay?" okay? I looked at Victor in disbelief, who actually thought I pushed Lucy. When Lucy saw him, she cried even more pitifully, clinging to Victor's leg. Brother Sheng, what are you talking about? Didn't you say I was 1,000 times, 10,000 times better than Sarah? I love the way I dance the most, right? I did this today to make you understand what kind of person Sarah really is. Victor kicked her away with one foot. Get lost. Shut up. Lucy hugged him once again. I went down the stairs. Victor pushed Lucy away again and walked towards me. Before he got close, William suddenly appeared in front of me. He turned back and said to me, I just went out to handle some matters and just got back. I stood behind him. In response, some things happened. He nodded. It's okay. I'll handle it. Victor wants to get close to me. Sarah, me. William immediately stood in front of me. Victor, this is my last warning to you. Stay away from my wife. After saying that, he waved to call security. He looked coldly at Lucy, who was lying on the ground, his tone devoid of warmth. Since you don't want your legs, then I'll grant your wish. The security dragged Lucy away. A moment later, her miserable screams echoed in the yard. The entire venue instantly fell into silence. Not even Victor spoke again, let alone save Lucy. After that, I often heard some rumors about me. Lucy's leg was indeed broken. I don't know if it was William who sent someone to interrupt, or if she fell down the stairs herself, but everyone says it was my fault. As the young mistress of the Sullivan family, I have become the true culprit. Out of jealousy for her beauty and dance, I pushed her down at the venue. William has suppressed public opinion twice already, and although the situation seems to have calmed down, it is always being stirred up again. He began to feel anxious, ordering someone to find out who is behind the scenes. Just as the investigation was about to start, Victor took the initiative to stand up and defend me. He found the video from that day at the venue, and the evidence was conclusive, showing that Lucy had indeed orchestrated it herself, intentionally shifting the blame onto me. In an instant, Lucy became the target of everyone's criticism, originally relying on Victor's support. Lucy had already established herself in the dance community, but this incident, along with her leg injury, completely cut her off from the dance world. Not long after, Victor found me again. He stopped me at the studio entrance. Sarah, wait, don't go. Give me a chance, okay? I can explain. Just give me some time. You see, I've already cleared things up for you. You have to believe me. The one I care about the most is you. Sarah. In desperation, I took out my phone to call the police. Victor, enough is enough. If you keep harassing me, I'm really going to call the police. But he remained unyielding, still blocking my way, not letting me leave. I dialed the emergency number. Just as the call connected, Lucy hobbled over to me. Sarah, you made it so I can never dance again. I want you to pay with your life, she shouted, pulling out a bottle of clear liquid from behind, and splashed it towards me. I was about to dodge, when Victor quickly stepped in front of me. Sarah, be careful. The liquid splashed all over Victor, and some even hit his face. In an instant, the liquid began to corrode Victor's skin, and he screamed in agony. It's sulfuric acid. Lucy has truly lost her mind. I grabbed her wrist and pushed her to the ground, ensuring she couldn't resist anymore, and reported the address to the operator on the phone. After hanging up, I quickly dialed for an ambulance. When William arrived at the hospital, Victor was already in the emergency room. Victor's parents had initially blamed and complained about me, but upon seeing William, they immediately fell silent. Deep down, they actually understood that Victor was in the wrong himself. I have never owed anything to Victor. William accompanied me as I left. Lucy's behavior filled me with fear, and I had nightmares at night, which caused me to be unable to sleep. William was always by my side, softly comforting me. It's okay. Lucy won't come out for now. Don't be afraid. I'm here. He gently stroked my back, patiently soothing me. Finally, I gathered the courage to ask my question. William, why did you choose me as your marriage partner? William held me tightly in his arms, smiling as he said, let's put it this way. Thank you for being willing to marry me. Sarah, actually, I have liked you for a long time.